Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're going to start momentarily. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Albemarle Foundation for Education, or AFE, Community Information Session, featuring key initiatives for the 2024-2025 school year, hosted by the Office for Community Engagement. Consistent with the ACPS strategic plan, Learning for All, the AFE aligns community resources to opportunities that support the ACPS mission to help all students learn and thrive, have a positive impact on outcomes in the ACPS strategic plan, would not otherwise be funded by the school system, and to generate a community commitment to our public schools. I'm Daphne Kaiser, Assistant Superintendent for School Community Engagement, and your moderator for this event. During this session, community partners and a division leader will cover topics including AFE's mission, vision, and goals for the 2024-2025 school year, implementation of the Communities in Schools model on the Lambs Lane campus, Greer Elementary, Journey Middle, and Albemarle High, and at Red Hill Elementary School. Transition of the Families Helping Families Legacy Fund to AFE, the Albemarle McKinney-Vento connection, as well as AFE funding priorities and ways for the community to engage and support. In addition, participants will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation part of the session. Tonight's agenda includes a welcome from Albemarle County Public Schools Superintendent, Dr. Matthew Haas, an introduction from the moderator of our panelists who will be presenting, presentations from our esteemed panelists, question and answer session, and Dr. Irizarry, Director of Equity, School, Family, and Community Relations, will close out our time together with final thoughts and next steps. We appreciate your time to be with us, and now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Haas for the welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaiser. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. I'll be brief because I know we want to get to the bulk of the agenda, and I know there's a lot to talk about tonight. I want to begin by first thanking Families Helping Families. I remember when that initiative started through Family Council. Some members recognized that what we're all beginning to recognize with greater urgency, that we need our community. We need our community to be part of reform for all of our students in Albemarle County schools. And we had early pioneers who decided to take that on right where it's happening with our families, and took the initiative to bring community into the schools and bring community into the schools in a coordinated effort. And to me, that really began our conversations. You not only helped our families that were in great need, but you helped to begin our conversations about how do we bring our community partners, our community resources, our community agencies into our schools with greater coordination, making it easier for them to help us in the work that we're doing to promote equity for our students, equity of opportunity and equity of outcomes for our students. And now I also, of course, want to thank our newer partners, our Albemarle Foundation for Education, for your initiative to take things to the next level. And by taking on Families Helping Families, you are taking things to the next level. And we are feeling a greater commitment from our community. If you think about reform in public schools as a triangle with a base, the two sides of the triangle where we work to reform are with our governance, and that has to do with accountability for results, and the overall operations and efficiency of the school system. Another leg or another side of the triangle is our teaching and curriculum and our constant striving to improve that. And the base of that triangle on which it rests is community. And when we can bring the base, when we can bring community up to match the other two sides, if you picture that triangle standing on that base of community, where we currently have dropouts, or we currently have students who are disengaged for any number of reasons, when that community base closes in on the other two sides of the triangle, it will eventually prevent our dropouts, prevent disengagement of students for all the things that are outside of school that can get in their way of high quality teaching and learning. This is just the beginning, and I look forward to learning more tonight with everyone else. And again, I just want to express my gratitude to Families Helping Families and to our Albemarle Foundation for Education. Thank you, Dr. Kaiser.
Thank you so much, Dr. Haas. We have a wonderful group of panelists joining us this evening. Our presenters will share about 8 to 10 minutes worth of information related to the Albemarle Foundation for Education's key initiatives for this year. In a moment, I will introduce the panelists in the order in which they will present. But before I do that, I did want to mention that we will be recording this session and information will be posted on our ACPS YouTube channel. You will have access to this for as long as you need to, and we will be sending it out to the community so that everyone will have an opportunity to watch, even if they were not able to attend this evening. Please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom. We will not answer them until after presenters have had their 8 to 10 minutes to speak. We will take about 30 minutes at the end of the session after our panelists have presented to answer questions. At this time, I would like to introduce our panelists. We are glad to have our community partners and district leader join us for this event. We have Mr. Randy Tripp, President, Albemarle Foundation for Education. Ms. Latara Ragland, Senior Family Service Specialist, CAYUP, or Community Attention Youth Internship Program Coordinator, and ACPS Parent. Ms. Laura Brown, Coordinator of Federal Programs for Albemarle County Public Schools, and Ms. Cindy Cowell, Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Communities in Schools, Northern Virginia. All of our work and everything we do in Albemarle County Public Schools is centered around our strategic plan, Learning for All. Our vision: learners are engaged in authentic, challenging, and relevant learning experiences, becoming lifelong contributors and leaders in our dynamic and diverse society. Our mission: working together as a team, we will end the predictive value of race, gender, and special capacities for our children's success through high-quality teaching and learning for all. We seek to build strong relationships with families and communities and ensure that every student succeeds, and we will know every student in our division. Our values include equity, excellence, family and community, and wellness. And this evening, our goals, all 3 of them, are included for this presentation: thriving students, affirming and empowering communities, and equitable and transformative resources. Now, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists, and we will come back in a short while to answer questions afterward. Mr. Randy Tripp, President, Albemarle Foundation for Education, you are first to present.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kaiser, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. As mentioned, my name is Randy Tripp Jr., and I currently serve as the president of the Albemarle Foundation for Education, or AFE. I'm also a proud parent of two young boys who are over at Agner Elementary School. So that is a hat that I wear proudly as well. As the president of the Albemarle Foundation for Education, our mission is to generate a community commitment to helping each student in Albemarle County Public Schools thrive. This is what guides each and everything that we do as a foundation, and we hope that this will be brought to light a little bit this evening. As a foundation, we believe that education does not happen in a silo. Growing up, and even still today, I've always heard that it takes a village. So the burden of education and reducing barriers to a quality education is not just the responsibility of the schools, but it is also the responsibility of the community as well. When schools, families, and community groups work together, it really pushes our education forward that much more. We also live in a community here in Albemarle that is very unique. It offers an ecosystem that is primed to support each other and support our students and educators to ensure their success. We also know that within most public school systems, and Albemarle is not an outlier, that there are some schools that just need a little bit more additional support and a little bit more investment. So with these things in mind, this is where AFE was birthed. And this is really where our mission comes from, is to really trying to build that community commitment to helping each student in ACPS thrive. So what is AFE? So in 2022, AFE was established, and we raised funds to fill gaps within the ACPS budget in order to support schools, and especially those that have the most need. As a designated philanthropic arm for ACPS, that's just what we do. We raise supplemental funds and also accept in-kind donations to support projects that are outside of the ACPS budget. And our focus is really to support systemic and transformational change within our schools. So we do that really with the help of all of our community members and all the individuals who are gathered on this call who are listening tonight. So who is AFE? Who is comprised of this organization? So we are housed under the ACPS division under the Office of Community Engagement. We are a board of directors that is led by an executive director. We're very fortunate that Dr. Kaiser is serving in that role currently. And again, we are housed under her department to ensure that what we're doing mirrors exactly how we can get support from the community. The board is made up of community members who share our mission. And we also have individuals like Dr. Haas and two additional school board members who serve as ex officio members of our board to ensure that what we are doing is able to directly reflect the needs of the students and the educators who are within the school division. You can see the names of the individuals who are on the board there on the slide. So if you're connected to any of these individuals and want to learn a little bit more, have questions, or have personal relationships with any of these individuals, I encourage you to have conversations about ways that you could potentially support AFE and our mission and what we are trying to do. We wanted our priority areas and our areas of focus to mirror those that are within the ACPS strategic plan. So we work to support, again, our outstanding educators, build up and empower our community, and of course, want to ensure that our students are thriving. In the first couple of years, you can see in each one of these buckets, we brainstormed and came up with different ideas that, again, was a wide array of focus. And we wanted to try to support several different initiatives within each one of these different buckets. And as you can see here, we brainstormed a few ideas and some we were actually able to execute as well. So where we landed in our first couple of years is that we funded a few different projects and supported a couple of initiatives that we felt will really make an impact within our schools and with our students. And a few of those examples are on the next slide that I'll talk about. So here are a few examples of some of the projects that we've funded in the past, and I'll talk a little bit about kind of where we're transitioning for the 2024-25 year. So the Feel Better, Do Better project was at Journey Middle School, where school counselors provided personal care products and a space for the girls at that school to connect and discuss and talk about mental health. The idea was that if they feel better, then they will do better in schools. So we are very happy to fund that project. We also funded a program at the community lab school that allowed students to learn about growing mushrooms, where they then were able to sell those at a local farmers market. A couple other projects, we supported STEM in the afternoon, which was a part of the EDEP program in the Western Feeder Pattern, where elementary school students were able to learn how to program robots and code. And it created a friendly environment as well as competition among schools. And it gave those students an opportunity to meet some new friends across the schools. And then the Wildflower Garden, also at Journey Middle School, where the science class and the English learning class teamed up to plant a wildflower garden and learn about pollination. It was very intentional that this garden was placed in the center of the school so that all students and teachers could benefit from this project. Another project that we're very proud of that we were able to fund and secure a grant for was our Centera Cares grant. And the primary goal of this was really to remove barriers for education for those students who lacked access to quality medical care. And then the second goal was, of course, to promote health with those students, and especially those that were in the more vulnerable communities or that were more vulnerable within our community. So with this grant, we've been able to support several students with medical support, and especially we've been able to help those students who've had special dental needs over the past year. And then this past spring, we launched a School Champion Initiative where we reached out to several businesses within the community to support our schools and really be champions for the schools. And it was really designed just for that, to create and develop a network of individuals within the community that could really champion our schools through different areas, either of their time, their talent, and their treasure, which I'll talk about here in a second. So as we move forward, we want to continue to engage within the Albemarle County community and hope that we can count on everyone within our community to be able to support either through your time, through your talent, or especially with your treasure, or a combination of those different areas. Your support will help us in our mission to creating that community commitment to helping each student in Albemarle County Public Schools thrive. So what does that look like? Time could be providing mentorship to staff or to students, or volunteering within the schools. Your talent could look like offering work-based learning opportunities through your community or through your organization, or just exposing students to career pathways and training. And your treasure, I think we all know what that means. Your funding and your finances really can go a long way to support all that we are doing within our organization. We are in the process of revamping our website, but right now the website is living within the division's website. So you can go there to find out more, get added to our mailing list, make a donation to support any of these initiatives. But as we're going into 2024 and 2025, we will be focusing on two main initiatives, and you will learn about those tonight. Families Helping Families Legacy Fund, which we've absorbed, as well as our Communities and Schools initiatives. And I won't go into detail because you're going to actually hear from the experts from that, but this is how you can help, and this is what's next for AFE.
Thank you so much, Randy. Next up, we have Latara Ragland, Senior Family Service Specialist and KEP Coordinator and ACPS parent.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser, and thank you everyone for being here with us tonight. Like Randy, my greatest pride and joy is having a young scholar here in Albemarle County Public Schools. So shout out to Stony Point Elementary for all the love and energy that they pour into my child. In my role as president for Families Helping Families, I've had the privilege, the honor of working alongside a dedicated team of volunteers, community members, school staff, and Albemarle County Public School parents to support our youth and families in our community. And so tonight I'll share a little bit about Families Helping Families. It's always been a tongue twister for me. FHF's mission, its origins, key program highlights, and what's next for us. The mission of Families Helping Families has advanced and yet have truly stayed the same throughout the 4 years, emphasizing the importance of us all coming together to support families and students so they can thrive. FHF believes that every student in Armour County Public Schools has full access to public education, free from any obstacle. FHF was started because of a group of passionate individuals saw great inequities across our school district, and they wanted to do something about it. To give a little history, Families Helping Families was founded in the 2019-20 school year. And like I said, parents who really were like, there's some disparities across our schools, and we want to do something different. So with the support, the great support of ACPS leadership, as Dr. Haas mentioned, and Dr. Bernard Hairston at the time as well, along with school staff, parents, youth, and community members, FHF was able to launch with enthusiasm and shared commitment to making a difference. In spring 2020, the wonderful COVID-19 pandemic disrupted learning for all students and created significant challenges for families facing issues like lack of food, utilities, internet access. We know all the things. These existing gaps were amplified by the pandemic, and Families Helping Families was able to stand in the gap during that time. In summer 2020, focus groups included educators, counselors, parents, community members, formed to address those challenges. And Families Helping Families was able to be the convener and facilitator for these groups. By fall 2020-21, Families Helping Families was established to bridge those gaps, providing a support based on community needs and collaborating with families to find solutions. FHF offers funding and resources for unique or collective challenges faced by students, educators, and families. A solutions team was put together and led by ACPS's mental health coordinator that was put in place to help navigate increasing needs. The board was also put together to help make decisions around funding to ensure that we could assist meeting needs, multiple and variety, while also leaning in on our rich resource community here in Albemarle. Families Helping Families has achieved remarkable milestones. These highlights really, cannot emphasize enough about the volunteerism, the 100% volunteerism that went into this program. Gaining the 501c3 status in February 22 that allowed for efficient use of resources with 97% of the funding, $20,628 dedicated directly to meeting community needs. Key initiatives include the establishment of snack closets and mental health and wellness supports, which have provided students and families with essential resources. Strong partnerships with local schools, PTOs, and community organizations amplified FHF's impact, including successful efforts to encourage direct PTO donations and coordinated teacher appreciation efforts. Understanding the importance of identifying and navigating our many community resources, FHF took on a comprehensive resource guide and a newsletter to serve as a connection point for families with local services, as well as community partners and school staff. FHF's work has been recognized through prestigious awards, including United Way Caring for Community Award in 2023 and the CNE Philanthropy Champion Award this year. I want to emphasize again that this work would not have been made possible without the dedication of volunteers, the generosity of donors, and a shared commitment of HFS mission, advocacy, and true compassion. In 2023, we went through a strategic planning process with the UVA Equity Center to help us refine and review and just take good care of what we were doing, being good stewards of the monies and our time and energy. This effort emphasized reducing a duplication of services and identifying the need for capacity building to prevent volunteer burnout. FHF aims to achieve sustainability by pursuing grants, encouraging PTO contributions, and strengthening partnerships with community agencies, schools, and the AFE. Through discussions with ACPS Family Council, the Office of Community Engagement, and AE, FHF explored how best to support families, recognizing that our alignment with AFE's division-wide goals were clear. Transitioning to a legacy fund was definitely not an easy choice. We realized that our work is unique, but we also realized the importance of not duplicating efforts and also preserving each other's energy and capacity and wanting to do things well and with quality. So this partnership will enable FHF's mission to thrive long-term. As FHF representative will be joining the AFE board to continue mission-driven work together. Families Helping Families funds will directly support families in crisis, communities and schools initiatives, and continue with snack closets. Families will still be able to access these resources through school counselors, the Help Me app, and the ACPS Family Resources page. This mission endures continuous work ensuring support for youth and families into the future. And the reality is there's more work to be done. The work continues, and we're excited that the work will be done in partnership with AFE and Office of Community Engagement, and ACPS is district-wide. So
Thank you so much, Latara. And thank you to Families Helping Families for all of the years of work and support that you've given the school division.
thank you. And again, I just want to emphasize that I just happen to be the person to give the message today. Is really all the volunteers. I couldn't even name people because I would leave people out, and that would just not be fair. But really just, you know, a testament to how our community can come together and make things happen. So.
All right, thank you so much. Now we're on to Ms. Laura Brown, Coordinator of Federal Programs, Department of Instruction for Albemarle County Public Schools.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Latara and Randy. I really love hearing about all those very cool initiatives. And for me, it's really heartwarming hearing those stories of, you know, the Garden Project and the Mental Health and Wellness Project. And I know from partnering with Families Helping Families how much we have relied on you all. And at the end of the day, it's people behind that. It's community members, it's teachers, it's school staff, it's parents. And then it's for students, it's for children in our community and our schools, which is why we're all here, right? So it really warms my heart to hear all of those very exciting and interesting project choices. And I'm so excited to continue to work with you all and be part of this development. Do you all hear me okay? How's my volume? Is it good? Okay. And Daphne, will you be advancing slides or do I need to work on that?
Laura, that's me. Just let me know when you're ready.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. So we are the McKinney-Vento Connection. We work with connecting students to schools, transportation, resources, and advocacy. You may know us as the Families in Crisis program. We have recently renamed. Families in Crisis is more of an emergency type name, and we wanted to talk a little bit more about what we do, which is part of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, and also that we're connecting students and families to as many resources and supports as we can for school success. So we rebranded. We haven't even updated our website yet, so you are the first to hear it. All right, we can keep going. And just, you know, I'm not going to read through everything, but our supports are for vulnerable families that experience housing loss. And across Virginia, as in many parts of the country, there's a shortage of affordable and available housing. Families with lower income are especially hard hit and are often faced with having to choose rent or choices of you know, food or medicine or healthcare, and having to make really tough decisions like that because they're overly cost burdened by their housing costs. Eric, I'll just give you a thumbs up when I'm ready to go. So some of the risk factors of homelessness are here, definitely being on poverty level, lack of affordable housing, and domestic violence is a large predictor of homelessness as well. And we do see all of these in Albemarle County. So I wanted to give you a snapshot of the breakdown of homeless eligible students, meaning eligible for a program, meeting the criteria of homelessness under the legislation that I'll get to in a minute. These are our schools that had the highest number of preschool through 12th grade students last school year. If you see a school not listed here, they had 8 students or less that were experiencing homelessness. I encourage you to just take a minute and see if there are any that stand out to you that are surprising. Are the numbers overall lower or higher than you might think? I will say that the numbers have increased drastically, over doubling in the last year. And so we support students and families across the division at all of these schools and all of the schools. There are certainly other schools that have other students. There's almost no school in Albemarle County that has a, that doesn't have a student that's experiencing a homeless situation. We can keep going. So what is the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act? It's a federal legislation that was enacted in, I believe, 1987, and it's to ensure that students receive the same educational opportunities as all other students. We're not, housing homeless students in another school to school. We're giving them the same access as everybody else. Removing barriers to being able to get to school. And so when a student moves 3 or 4 times during a school year, or even more, we are able to ensure that they have a way to get to school with school transportation and that they can stay often in the same school where they have been attending. They're not having to change schools or worse, be out of school. Can go on. So where are students staying? And I'm not going to get too much into the details of the law. Our office does make the determination for meeting criteria, and we adhere to the federal guidelines, but families may be in cars, hotels, emergency shelters. Fortunately, in our area, we haven't had too many families sleeping outside, but we do occasionally. And then we have other families who are doubled up, and that means they're living in a crowded condition with another family or other people in an apartment or trailer. Can keep going. And so the definition is it a fixed, regular, adequate place? We think of that as, can the student sleep in the same place nightly, or are they, are they subject to potentially having to move out quickly? And so if you're not on a lease, even though you may have tenants' rights from being there for a while, you can get kicked out very quickly. And that happens, unfortunately, frequently. We've had families that are told you have to leave tomorrow or 2 days from now. We have other families that move around. So they might be with one relative for 2 nights, maybe an aunt and then grandma's for 3 nights, or a hotel for a week, and then they have to move. And then is it adequate in terms of safety and adequate space? Sometimes there are structural damages or an infestation that make a living situation uninhabitable. So we can keep going. And so where are Albemarle County students that were experiencing homeless living? This was last year. We had many more students staying in hotels. And what we found was that when they would lose housing, there just is no place to go. And there's not actually an area shelter that accepts families with children right now, except for the Shelter for Help in Emergency, which is a specific criteria for domestic violence within the home. So there are some shelter stays, but not that many. A lot of our families are in doubled up situations, and then some have been unsheltered, and those are typically sleeping in the car, and like I said, a few outside. So the total for last year was 353 students. This is the same size as Ivy Elementary School. They had 352 enrolled students last year. So it's enough to fill a one of our mid-size elementary schools, which is it's stark when you hear those numbers. This is just a quick snapshot that our numbers doubled. The number of students residing in hotels has nearly quadrupled in the last few years. And then we used to have about 25% students living in doubled up. Now we have 65% roughly. Yeah. Impacts of homelessness or achievement gaps, graduation rates decreased, a lot of absenteeism. Despite our best efforts at getting students to school and getting them transportation, it is challenging. And then interestingly, there's an increase of learning delays and then behavioral challenges. It's a very stressful environment to live in with a lot of instability and unpredictable change. So what do we do about that? We've got supports. We assist with getting kids into school quickly, getting bus routed in an expedited system. They are automatically eligible for free lunch. We have backpacks, school supplies, some tutoring. We can help out with providing gas support for getting the kids to school until their bus is routed. We are part of a community block grant for a little bit of funding for short-term hotel stay, resource referrals all the time, connecting families to housing resources in the area and advocacy. And we worked really strongly in partnership with some of the social services organizations and community housing organizations in the area. And then, like I said, Families Helping Families and the Albemarle Foundation for Education, we're excited to develop some partnerships there. We've had some, but we're excited to do more. I think we're nearing the end. I do want to mention our adorable little guys. So one thing we were able to do with some of the American Rescue Plan funds is we partnered with Wild Rock Nature Center and ran a summer camp for elementary students in 3 of our highest population of homeless students in Albemarle County schools. And this is some photos. The boys, they're our brothers. They were constantly helping each other, patting each other in the back. They're carrying a little salamander in that bowl as we were a lot of creek time stuffing around the creek. I will mention those funds are now expired because it was rescue plan funds. So we're, opportunities like this, we'd love to continue. It was completely free. We partnered with our transportation department as well and did field trips out to the nature center, as well as had school-based programming. And we'd love to continue it. We just need an opportunity to be able to do so. And again, this is why we're here. We're all there for students and children and families. A safe place. School's often the safest place these kids can be. And then we're wrapping up. We can go to the next one. This was our last day of our summer camp. I promise the bus is not moving when the kids were hanging out the window, but they were so joyful and had such a wonderful time. And they were saying goodbye to one of our teaching assistants who they loved. I think they would have gone home with him if they could, or brought him to their house. And yeah, that was just a wonderful moment that I happened to catch. And then just the last slides, I think, are just how to contact us. We're happy to talk with a family, connect them to resources, and plug into any kind of supports we can provide. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you for the work that you do and your team does, again, to help our families and help our students thrive. Now, last to present, we have Ms. Cindy Cowell, Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Communities and Schools, Northern Virginia.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cindy Cowell. I'm with CIS of Northern Virginia, and I am really pleased to be here with all of you this evening to talk about how we can serve children and families in Albemarle County. Having listened to Dr. Haas and Dr. Kaiser, and then the folks at AFE and Families Helping Families, and Laura talking about kids in crisis, families in crisis, I know we are in the right place. We are very excited to begin here in our first year serving at 4 schools in Albemarle County. And so, Eric, if we can just get started, I'll move right along. So who is Communities in Schools? Communities in Schools is one of the largest youth-serving organizations in the country, second only to the Boys and Girls Club. However, you all know who the Boys and Girls Club are, but you probably don't know who we are. That's because we are in schools alongside teachers and admin and volunteers every day. We walk, talk, and act just like teachers and other educators in the building. We wear the same badges. And so we're kind of a hidden secret in the buildings because we don't have our own place. We think your place is pretty darn good, and that's where we want to be, with kids all day long. Our mission is to surround students with a community of support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. And when I heard Dr. Kaiser talk about your strategic goals, it's like it's right on the money. We are with you on goals 1, 2, and 3 all the way along. Thriving students is what we live for, empowering our community to support them, and making sure kids have truly equitable and transformative resources so they can thrive and achieve in life. The reason we're able to be here in Albemarle County this year is really a very, thankful situation. The Ballmer Group invested $165 million to expand Communities in Schools across the country into Title I schools. We know there are millions of children who need our support, but school by school, community by community, we just really weren't scaling up fast enough. And so with this investment, which is a challenge grant, it allows us to expand into communities like Albemarle County, working with the AFE and Albemarle County Schools, so that together we can build a sustainable structure and be here for your students and families for the long term. Our model is based on the fact that we place a full-time coordinator in every school, sometimes more than one, depending, like at the high school, at Albemarle High, we have 2 coordinators because it's a higher population at the school. But we have a coordinator placed inside every school who works full-time alongside teachers, principals, counselors, social workers, and really helps integrate everything that they're doing and make sure that students have what they need to succeed. We work on 3 levels. We provide school-wide services that any student could benefit from. And here I'm thinking of things that have been mentioned already: basic needs supplies, school supplies, clothing, coats for the winter, shelf-stable food. These kind of things, we're very quick to help fill in the gaps when we learn of students or families who don't have these very basic necessities. Other school-wide activities might mean a guest speaker, an author coming in to talk to our elementary school students. It might mean helping with a college fair at the high school level. It can be any number of things that would be available to any student in the school. On the next level, we kind of bring it down a little bit and focus on a targeted resource for students. At that level, you're thinking kids who have the same need and can benefit from working together in a group. Most often, this is tutoring, mentoring, homework help. We do a lot of work at lunchtime, during Panther time, Patriot time, all those advisory periods that students have through the day. That's really a golden time for our staff to do small group work, or to get to the next level, work with our most needed students, those tier 3 kids who need one-on-one case management support. Those are students that we work with on a very regular basis. We track their progress. They are usually always participating in our small group work, and often have a number of risk factors that have been presented by folks earlier in this presentation, from living in a high poverty situation, in an overcrowded apartment, a single parent home. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of the risk factors here in a housing burden situation, all of those things that make life very difficult for our families, and then therefore for our students to keep them on track and moving forward the way they should. So where are we? Actually, we're quite strong here in the Southeast, but we are a nationwide network. We're working in 27 states along with the District of Columbia. And this year we just passed a new milestone of reaching over 2 million students across the country. And as I said, we work, really hand in hand with, as we are here in Albemarle County, we work with school districts and local communities, sometimes state and local governments, private funders, and basically anyone and everyone who believes in children and students and public education as much as we do. In Virginia, there's a pretty strong network. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary in the state last year. You can see Northern Virginia at the top of the screen. That was last year. We were serving 17 schools, and now continue to kind of move down throughout the state because there's a lot of blank space there, and several, dozens actually of Title I schools that really need extra support. Coming out of COVID, we know that so many of our students are behind because distance learning or virtual learning wasn't effective for all of our kids, and some of our kids just didn't participate. So there's a greater need now more than ever since 2020, and that's why we hope to expand further into this area. So what do we do? As I mentioned earlier, we certainly work with community partners. And the thing that, I like to say to folks to kind of make it very easy to understand is that communities and schools likes to be that value add in the building. If we all think back to what it was like when we were in public school, it's a very different picture from what it is today. And our public schools are being called upon to do fill a number of roles that they just weren't originally designed to do, and further now don't have the funding or the staff to do it. So our job, I feel, is for us to step in and help fill in those gaps that exist, and take some of that burden off of our school partners so that we can provide those missing links so that kids can continue to move along and thrive towards a better future. We don't want kids to get hung up. We don't want them to fall behind or drop out. So the kind of things that we do are to bring all of those resources to the table. We do that by providing basic needs and working with a lot of community partners. The two mentioned here, Amazon, of course, everybody knows. When they brought HQ2, or at least the start of that construction, into Arlington, Virginia, they provided us with support to provide basic needs to every student in Arlington and Alexandria. And it's as simple as, a social worker reaching out and making a request, and we can fill that request. With vision, we're working with VSP, our big vision provider. There for many, many years, we've been providing complete vision screenings and glasses on the spot for students who, every teacher knows that student who is squinting at the board and not copying things down because they can't see it. So once those students are identified, we run a week of the Vision Van visiting our schools to make sure kids get their first pair of glasses, or maybe get a new pair of glasses if that's what is needed. But this is one of those heartwarming weeks that we're happy to host, and the demand unfortunately far outstrips what we're able to do in a week's time. We also work very strongly on family engagement. That's a part of every one of our our site coordinators' plans. They work hand in hand with the school to devise a plan at the beginning of every year that they work from, from then to the end of the year, setting goals and filling in those gaps that principals and teachers are most concerned about. A piece of this is always family engagement, because we need our families to be engaged in student learning. It's much more important now than ever, and it's also much more difficult. This is just an example of one of our former site coordinators who was with us actually for 8 years and really did a lot of work for us in helping to expand and deepen our practice in family engagement and train the rest of our staff to implement very strong family engagement programming. Attendance is one of the big buckets that we work in. You'll see it's attendance, academics, social emotional learning, and family engagement. Coming out of COVID, we all know that attendance has been, actually, it's a chronic problem at this point, and it's a nationwide problem. Kids are not engaged in attending school as regularly as they need to be in order to be successful. So we often work alongside school staff to provide programming, check-ins with family, home visits, incentive programs, games, clubs, all kinds of things to make students really want to be at school. Social emotional learning is another big piece of our work. We know that if we have a student who wants to come to school, that it's all about the relationship for us between our site coordinators and the students they're working with. And they work hard on building these relationships with the student and their family. Almost all of our programs at every one of our schools, Red Hill, Greer, Journey, and Albemarle, all of our coordinators there are implementing social emotional learning programs, whether it's an art therapy group, whether it's a lunch group and we're working on literacy skills, whether they're playing it, whether it's a leadership club. There's at every level we have different types of programming to bring kids to get kids excited about being at school and learning again. Of course, for our folks in high school, it's really all about, well, what is that next step? We work one-on-one in small groups and again, school-wide with students on everything from college to career planning. And we start with 9th graders, making sure that they have an understanding of, what are you good at? What are you interested in? What kind of things are out there for you? Have you ever had a job? Do you know how to apply for one? All of these things we work with, we kind of follow this continuum from 9th through 12th grade on a set curriculum that we have, teaching kids everything from, how to write an email to how to complete their resume and apply to college and FAFSA. We often do a lot of career panels. We're doing one with guest speakers at Albemarle High School right now. We've already had our first guest speaker. Another one is scheduled for December. So these are the kind of things that are just always ongoing to keep students engaged and thinking about that next step. Because for us, it's not just about crossing that finish line. It's also about graduating and becoming a really productive member of the community. And one of the things that is one of the 5 basics of communities and schools is that we want kids to graduate and then be a part of the community and have a chance to give back. So we're trying to build lifelong skills and build good community members as we work with them throughout their K-12 careers. This is just a quick look at our impact from last year. I really feel that when we're working with the student one-on-one and case managing them, they're going to make it. I feel very strongly about that. We case managed almost 700 kids last year. We already have just about 75 that are on our list just after 1 quarter here in Albemarle. I know that number will climb significantly, probably into the hundreds, before we get to the end of this year. And so whatever they're working on, as you look across at those dials across the top, you can see that when a student is working with us, they are generally very successful. I can say since COVID, that attendance number is the only one that's ever really, that has dipped. It was never even so much on our radar before 2020 here in Virginia, but it certainly is now. Another thing to point out quickly on that last slide is like, who are the kids that we're working with? 47% of the students are English language learners. Nearly 80% qualify for free and reduced lunch. So you can see that a lot of our work is centered on the families that, you know, have been discussed here, and that Families Helping Families works with, that we all know need extra support in order to be thriving members of our community and successful. That's just a quick look back. Our affiliate was founded in 2013 in just 2 schools in Arlington, and you know, we have grown since then to serve schools in Alexandria, Fairfax, and also Prince William County. We are really thrilled to be here in Albemarle County. I have said this to Dr. Kaiser more than once. This is the best rollout we've ever had. I am thrilled to collaborate with this team and the folks in this city and county. We are ready to roll. We're off to a great start, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you. As we talked about throughout this presentation, for us, this is a partnership with all of you, and we hope to be here for a very long time, working with AFE and Albemarle County Schools. We're here to stay and help kids succeed.
Thank you so much, Cindy, and thank you to Randy, Latara, Laura, and again, Cindy, for your presentation this evening. You've been informative and provided the community with valuable information. Now we're going to take about 30 minutes to answer questions. We have a few come in through the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom, and feel free to keep sending those through, and we will answer in the order that we are receiving these. However, do feel free to email Superintendent's Office at k12albemarle.org email address if you feel you have further questions or do not get an answer due to lack of time. So our first question goes to Cindy. Can you tell us a little bit about how long the initial grant, what's the extent of the initial grant for CIS? And are there opportunities to expand the footprint in Albemarle County Schools?
Sure, thank you for that question. I should have mentioned that the grant, the Balmer grant, and this initial expansion is a 3-year commitment. I will say that now that we are in 22 schools, we have never left one. So for us, it is initially a 3-year commitment of funding, but we intend to be here. And in terms of expansion, certainly there is always room for expansion if you know, Dr. Haas and the school system feels it's necessary for us to be in more schools. If there are more Title I schools or more schools that need more help, the devil's always in the detail of that funding. But there is another cohort of funding coming for next year that will be another 3-year cohort. So our expansion into Albemarle was part of cohort 2 for 3 years, and there will also be another cohort 3, which is also 3 years. So that match funding is available for another round.
All right, thank you. The next question is for Randy. How can families and community partners support the AFE?
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest thing I think right now what we're working on is awareness. I think this here is an example of just letting you all know that we exist. And I think the biggest areas where we can use community support, both as individuals or families, and as community organizations, I think comes with supporting these two initiatives that we've talked about tonight. So the Families Helping Families Legacy Fund and the Communities and Schools initiatives, they both run best when they are well funded. And we want to be able to rely on our partners and our families and our community organizations to help support us. So again, whether that is partnering with your talent, whether that is partnering with your time, or especially with your treasure and in your making donations to what we're doing. I think those are the biggest ways that we can use your support. And I think spreading the word about what AFE is and the initiatives that we're supporting. I think the more we can spread who we are and what we're doing in the community, I think the better the community will be able to support these initiatives going forward.
Thank you. The next question goes to Laura. Can you tell us a little bit about why we're seeing increases in students experiencing homelessness? Are there certain situations or circumstances that is causing this currently?
There's kind of a saying in the housing provider world, and it's what's the solution to homelessness? Housing. And so lack of affordable housing is a huge barrier in our area. It's also hard once you've had something like an eviction on your record. It's very hard to then obtain a rental because leasing agents and landlords will not rent to someone with an eviction history or poor credit or outstanding debt. So those barriers kind of just rack up over time. Another issue is that we really don't have temporary emergency shelter for children and families in Charlottesville and Albemarle. The Salvation Army is currently being renovated and they will have some rooms available, but their primary services have been for single adults. We also need, I believe, transitional housing programs such as the MACA Hope House program, which is a comprehensive wraparound program to help people get back on their feet, have short-term housing that can extend up to 18 months or 2 years typically. It has job training components, budgeting, all kinds of supports of growth for that parent to be able to sustain themselves once they're out of that program. And the Hope House has just a few properties. And so those are some of the gaps I see. There are certainly other communities in Virginia that have outstanding shelters for families, or they have more transitional housing programs. I would like to see more advocacy. Our team is honestly, I'm gonna use the word scrambling just to keep up. I just looked and I think we have 6 referrals in the last 2 hours. That's 6 families that we talk with, find out what's going on, figure out where they're gonna be. I have a social worker texting me right now saying this family has nowhere to go. What are they gonna do? So we unfortunately, I think, don't have as much time to do that advocacy and awareness piece that we would like to, because we're really just in the direct service with the family. So that would be a wonderful thing to be able to develop in partnership. And I could go on and on, but I will not keep going on and on. But
No,
there's
that-
not a simple answer to that, but those are
Mhm.
some of the things I think that are certainly prevalent in our community.
And just to follow up, Laura, what are other housing What are some other challenges that families are facing that you and your team support with?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, despite the fact that we're in an extremely resourced area, we do have families facing food shortage very regularly. We do have some outstanding food pantries in the area, but if a family doesn't have a car, then it's hard to access. So social workers and our team will take out food to families. We get a fair amount of requests for shoes and clothes. And then job training and having a job that's going to be able to sustain the rent. I will share with you, there's a wonderful National Low Income Housing Coalition website that has great data. You can click on every state in the country and get housing and information, but their report is that the household income that would be needed to afford a 2-bedroom at fair market rent is $62,925. So if you're making minimum wage or $15 an hour, you're not, or you're a single income household, you're not going to be able to make that. And then you're going to be so cost burdened with just your shelter. And so, I mean, I think that one is a huge, huge stressor. And then it's like all those other pieces start to fall apart of how you're going to get to school the next day, how you're going to get to work, your car breaks down. It's like what we see is these stressors being stacked and stacked and stacked. And it's sometimes we're like, these families just can't get a break, then someone got injured, then someone got ill. And it's like, it's being so close, so at risk that one last thing kind of tips you over the edge. With students, we are seeing, behavioral challenges. We see some students have special needs and they can't stay in a shelter safely, or, it just it's not a good or appropriate setting for them. Those families I really worry about, and those students. We do see students missing school and being behind in reading and math in their achievement scores. And then the graduation rates are a little bit lower, but the absenteeism is pretty high. Across the country, it's consistent with Virginia nationally and with us as well. Even like I said, despite our best efforts to get them back on a bus if they're living in a hotel, across town, or living with family or friends. Yeah, it's basics, it's basic needs.
And Laura, we had one quite follow-up question in the chat as well. Just a clarification. It said that last year's numbers were around 350, but you said they may be doubling. Is there an estimate about kind of what we're looking at for this year?
So to clarify, we doubled from the previous year. So this year we are looking pretty high, and I don't have a count to date. We are up to, I think, 170 this past month. So the trajectory is, that it'll be comparable to last year. We really don't know, honestly. There are some factors that can influence it, but yeah, sometimes there'll be a slew of evictions all at once. There'll be a certain apartment complex that kind of has that, and then we start noticing that trend. Other times there are trends of people arriving to the area from other places. It would be interesting to track that data more, but it's pretty constant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question is for Latara. How will Families Helping Families still support families if they are now with the AFE?
Great question. The decision to do a legacy fund was really, to have that opportunity for the community members, donors, fundraise, whoever really wanted to invest. We are still going to be using the Help Me app, and the school counselors are going to be like the first point of contact for any needs, which is pretty much what Families Helping Families was doing anyway. So if a family needs support resource, they'll reach out to their school counselor, their family support worker, teacher, whoever they are connected with. And those needs will still be met those funds that we are putting in the legacy fund are earmarked for that support. And again, there's the Help Me app, and then the resource guide that is connected to the Albemarle County website is, still going. So, really and truly, like, it's being 100% volunteer agency here in Charlottesville while also maintaining full-time jobs and families, the burnout can be real challenging. So again, the decision to become part of AFE as a legacy fund is so that the work can still continue in a fruitful and quality. So it doesn't change anything. It's just more so of being nestled under an organization that already has the structure. So, just reiterating, school counselors, family support workers, whoever your family is connected to will be the first point of contact for any needs.
All right, thank you.
And Dr. Kaiser, if I can add, on when you are, if you decide that you want to make a donation to AFE, there is an option to give directly to the Legacy Fund, so that it is, again, that is part of our mission with AFE is to keep this Legacy Fund alive. So for those individuals who want to give directly to that effort under AFE, you do have the option to give directly to the Legacy Fund. So I just wanted to add that piece as well.
And one more thing, Randy just made me realize, and to really emphasize, so one of the things that we really worked on is encouraging PTOs, especially PTOs that can donate, put it in their budget to support families helping families. And we hope that doesn't change. I mean, again, those monies are there to support directly to families. So the PTOs that were able to donate, keep doing so. And then if there are new ones, we know the money is there to support. So we just encourage that, because again, that is kind of where Families Helping Families started, having those conversations with PTOs. So.
All right. Well, stand with you for a moment, Latara. We were thinking about, and you have a lot of volunteers that work with you and support this effort. How do folks get connected? And if they want to volunteer, if they want to join in by giving their time to this effort, what would be a way for them to get connected?
Yeah, I think, having a Families Helping Families board member on the board with AFE will definitely help navigate some of those situations, especially thinking about like volunteers are never turned away. We can find something for folks to do, whether that is helping with donations and outreach to community. Like there's stuff to do for sure. I think as far as like a point of contact, that information can be directed to Randy or even you all at the Office of Community, Family Engagement. So again, I feel like we can find some stuff. And it's not finding stuff, but really things that need to be done. So.
All right, thank you. Cindy, a question for you. I know that the site coordinators have been engaging in their needs assessment and developing their school plan. Can you give us some examples of some of the programming that has started in the schools on Lambs Lane campus and at Red Hill Elementary School?
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the things I think I probably should have mentioned, that in order for our folks to really understand the school community and get to know the students and families, our site coordinators start every school year with a needs assessment. And in that needs assessment, they speak to school staff, family members, teachers, students. They look at school data. And then, they really kind of certain things will bubble up and they see where those, what the biggest needs are at the school. And often that is usually pretty much hand in hand with what the principal and school staff already know and is in maybe in the school improvement plan for things they're trying to work on. So from there, they make their annual school support plan, and that's where the goals are set. Are we going to work on attendance this year, family engagement, academics? A lot of times at our elementary level, there's an academic goal to make sure kids are reading at grade level by the time they leave 5th grade and enter middle school. So again, here at Greer, that is not a surprise. We do have an academic goal, and our site coordinator there is working with students in small groups. She meets with them at lunchtime. She has some social emotional groups during lunchtime. She has literacy groups. Gabby Rodriguez is her name. She is running groups all day long for a variety of things. Focusing on attendance and academics, basically, I think on the core courses of reading and math at that elementary level. At middle school, it's a middle time, right? It's not an easy time for kids. They're trying to figure out where they belong and how they fit into the world here. They're not in elementary school anymore, and they're starting to come into their own, but they're not quite sure yet. So we do a lot of work there on, it seems to center a lot around behavior, sometimes academics, but I know Sonia is working a lot on social emotional learning again. She also has a family engagement goal, because that's where we see families start to drop off a little bit. They're very, very much involved in seeing their kids in those early grades, but as students get more independent, they don't want their families around, and families get busy, and the family engagement tends to drop off a little bit. So Sonia will be working on that. She has a number of leadership groups that she's working on with both boys and girls, building confidence and life skills, making sure they're responsible young citizens and doing all the things they're supposed to be doing when they're in middle school. And really focusing a lot on making the right choices, right? This is when kids start to kind of experiment and figure out which way they might go. So a lot of her programming is about making the right decisions, helping lead kids in the right direction. And of course, she's sneaking in academic and attendance things in there all the while, making sure that they want to be there at school every day. At the high school level, we do, again, there's family engagement. One of the things we just did recently, our coordinators did a great job organizing a community resource tailgate before one of the football games on Friday night. So when folks came out to the game, not only did they come to the game, but I think Dion was grilling hot dogs and hamburgers, and folks could get something to eat and see what community resources are available for their students. And it was also obviously a great chance to meet our folks and see who we are and what we plan to do working with their students and the community this year. As I said, they've already started a speakers program for folks thinking down the road about what kind of career or job they might want when they leave. So that's already happened once. There's another one happening in December. We do distributions. We'll be doing Thanksgiving distributions and a winter break distribution coming up in December. So our folks, I'm really very excited. They've hit the ground running, and they're busy. They're busy.
Just a follow-up, Cindy. I know there are a number of ways that students can get connected to the program. If we have a family that's really on the Lambs Lane campus at one of our schools, either Greer, Journey, Albemarle High School, or Red Hill Elementary School, and the family would like to get connected with communities and schools and have their student to be a part of the programming, how would a family go about doing that?
Yeah, I think they can just contact the school and wherever their most comfortable point of contact is. We get referrals from teachers, principal, admin, social workers, guidance counselors. Anyone on that school support team also has access to us. I would say we get a lot of direct referrals. It's a little bit early in the process because we've only been here, since August. We usually, if it hasn't started yet, I'm sure it will, there'll be a WhatsApp group that our coordinators start for their students and families, and they'll announce community resources, or they'll announce things that are available to put it out into the community, especially to the families that Laura is working with. And once that word gets out of like, hey, you need to join this group, people tend to find us pretty quickly. All of our coordinators have local, like Albemarle email addresses, and they also have a CIS of Nova email address. It's just simply their first name and then CISofNova.org. So they can self-refer. Families can call the office and ask to speak to the CIS coordinator. I just really strongly recommend anyone who is interested reach out, and we'll be happy to meet with you and your student.
Thank you. Randy, you talked a little bit in your presentation and you shared some teacher projects that the foundation supported last year. Can you talk a little bit about if we're moving forward with projects for this year, or if teachers are interested in specific projects, how would they go about tapping into a resource to put their projects forward?
Yeah, sure. So part of what AFE is trying to accomplish right now is we're trying to align ourselves with kind of focus areas that we will support moving forward. And what we found is that there are a lot of organizations within the community who are supporting teacher projects and teacher grants. And we want to be able to amplify those organizations for our teachers who are looking for those opportunities. Now, that's not to say that if a teacher or an educator presents something to us, we want to automatically turn away from it. But what we do want to do is be able to make sure that they know of all the resources that are available to them in the community to be able to access funds or resources to be able to move forward with their project. So while our focus moving forward this year is to focus on supporting our Families Helping Families and Communities and School initiatives, we also want to be able to amplify areas in the community that can support our teachers for specific teacher projects, whether that's through Donor Shoes, whether that's through other organizations in the community that support that. We want to be able to amplify those opportunities in addition to the focus areas for AFE this year.
All right, thank you. Laura, I'm going to come back to you. If you had a list of your top 5 to 10 things that you need, what and how can the community help you with that? What are some things that the community could help you with?
Well, I'm gonna have to say funding. I'm gonna have to say funding, that treasure, because we do have some federal grant monies, but it's fairly small. It doesn't cover our department. I mean, so there's that. Yeah, I mean, if I could have a staff where we've got a development coordinator and then they are the person partnering with CIS and Families Helping Families and AFE, that'd be great, and then we had an advocacy piece with government and, community, providers, right? That would be a portion. Like I said, we're just family after family after family trying to help them, and then kind of honestly, I hesitate to say this, but a little bit bare bones of like, get them in school, keep them in school, get them in school, keep them in school, get the bus. Sounds simple, but things can go awry with scheduling and getting kids to the right bus stop and all of that. Our transportation department is amazing. I don't know how they pull it off, but we're trying to have tutoring as a goal. We're not able to even hire and manage that right now. And we don't really quite have the funds to do that. So I'm going to say staffing, tutoring. And then for families, I think being able to really follow a family with what supports are needed to bolster them into a more stable situation. So there are great programs in town with United Way or, job workforce programs. But to really follow the family through that is not something that we're able to do because we've got the next family coming down, the way. So I that's off the top of my head. I'm sure I could go back to all of our initiatives and goals. But it is, we are somewhat limited by funding availability right now. We'd love to be able to run the summer camp and expand it and have partnerships like the Wild Dog Nature Center and others. That takes, it's not a large budget. It really is not for things like that, overall, but we don't have it. That's what it comes down to. So I don't know, Dr. Haas, you chime in because I don't, that's an on the spot question, but that's an honest answer too. So.
Well, and just to follow up, Laura, if we have families that are in need, how do they get in touch with you? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so call us, email us, text us. Anyone on our team can take a referral. The school registrars we are in touch with all the time. They definitely pass on to us, families that need help. School counselors and the social emotional support, mental health support specialists. All of them can refer to us, principals, anybody and everybody refers to us. But if Eric, you can pull up our slide again, it's toward the end of our slide deck. We have all of our contact info on there. We also have our contact info on the website. We'll be updating our name again. So right now we're in that transition. But yeah, we'll just take phone calls and emails. We are starting to look at streamlining ways to take referrals because we're just getting so many. But right now that's fine to just reach out. Basically, it comes to me and I kind of parcel out to our staff, and we're all Spanish speaking as well on our staff, which is great. So we can handle that. And then if there are other families that need interpretation, we tap into our interpreter phone system. And I had family in here today that I was doing that with. So we're happy to do that too.
And Daphne, I mean, what I would add is that that's the power of community and schools. And that's why this project is so important, because what was just described by Laura is an example of an uncoordinated response, that her office is doing everything it can within the funding and parameters that we have from the federal and state government with regard to the funding we receive for that program. And we do what we can as a school system to enhance it, taking money away from other programs. But the situation she described, where you have this student that has particular needs, they access it through our Families in Crisis program, and the Family in Crisis program puts out the fire, the biggest fire, temporarily, and then as they recognize the array of other needs that the family has, they begin to try to farm out the assistance to the family to the other agencies in the community that could possibly help. However, in a school system that is 726 square miles and agencies spread around it, and even spread around the 30 square mile area of the county that is bigger than the 10 square miles of the city. So we have a city within our county that's 30 square miles. For students and families to be able to get across just that area, to get from one place to another, they don't have a place to make contacts from. They don't have a place to meet these critical services. The schools should be where that happens. And so as community and schools becomes more ingrained through their assessment of the needs of students in a school, then that will be what will happen. And it's already starting to happen, and will happen more with greater frequency and greater coordination. The services are all there. Like you heard Laura just describe, the services are there. It's the families, for good reason, are unable to make the connections that they need to be able to make. We have to do that, and we have to do it in a coordinated way, but that's where the coordinated community response comes from. That is needed at the base of that triangle that I talked about earlier. So thank you for the opportunity to say something.
Thank you so much, Dr. Haas. And I'm going to check with Eric because we are almost out of time. But Eric, do we have any last questions?
Cindy was able to answer the question through text, so we are good to go.
Okay, so we have run out of time this evening. Thank you so much. Again, we'll put in the chat the superintendent's office at k12albemarle.org, so you can send any additional questions or request information. Briefly to close, I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Irizarry. However, before doing this, I would like to again thank our panelists for their time, for Dr. Haas being with us this evening, and for Gary Moore and Kenny Wood for their technology support, to Dr. Irizarry, who you will hear from in just a moment, for managing the slide deck. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we have recorded the session and we will send it out to the entire community. The session will be up on our YouTube channel, so you will have access to it. I can't encourage you enough to email the superintendent's office at k12albemarle.org email address in the chat. We're going to put that in the chat one more time. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Irizarry, Director of Equity, School, Family, and Community Relations.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser, and thanks again to our panelists. Again, you can see the work that goes into our students and our families here at ACPS, and it goes beyond reading and math. We really feel as though we need to support our families and the whole child. So again, if you have any questions or if you want to get involved with any of these organizations or with the school system, please reach out to that email or just to our department. We'll make sure that we can get you to the right people, and whether that's volunteering or our donations or any of our events, just feel free to reach out to us and we will get you in contact with the folks that can help you in whatever you're asking for. And again, we try to have these community information sessions once a month. And if there's a topic out there that you would like us to either cover here on the community information session or on our podcast, Engage ACPS, just reach out to myself or Dr. Kaiser, and we'll try to see if we can make that happen. So again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to our panelists. Dr. Haas, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next month.
One last thing, Dr. Irizarry, our partner breakfast.
Oh, yes. I don't have what's the date off the top of my head?
It's Giving Tuesday.
Giving Tuesday in December 3rd.
December 3rd.
So we're going to be at the Boys and Girls Club, and we're AFE and Communities and Schools will be there again, but we're also inviting our community partners that are in the area that we've worked with or that we want to work with. So if you are a local organization, please be on the lookout for an invitation. And if you'd like to go, please reach out to either Dr. Kaiser or myself, and we'll make sure to get you on the invite list. And that's going to be 8:30 Giving Tuesday, December 3rd at the Lambs Lane Boys and Girls Club.
All right. Sounds good. Hope to see everyone there. Again, thank you all for an outstanding session. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Great work.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you all tomorrow. See you in the morning, Eric.
All right.
All righty. I'm going to get off.
All right.